Hey there, welcome to Her Truth Revealed, unraveling our midlife era. I'm your host, Wonderful Morrison. This space is for the woman who's done pretending, done hiding, and ready to step fully into her truth. Midlife isn't about fading into the background. It's a time where resilience lights the way and authenticity becomes the loudest voice in the room. In this season of our lives, we are more than just survivors. We are creators, revolutionaries, and unapologetic women rewriting the rules. I've been through my battles, rebuilding from loss, betrayal, and heartache. But here's the truth. Every challenge, every tear, and every setback has led me to this moment of profound transformation. Together, we're going to dive into raw, real conversations that shatter stereotypes, tackle the tough stuff, and embrace the powerful magic that is midlife. So, if you're ready to live this chapter with boldness and joy, hit subscribe. Share this episode with someone who needs to hear it and leave a review so we can keep this revolution going. Ladies, no more masks, no more apologies, just the truth of who we are. Let's do this. Hello and welcome to Her Truth Reveal, where we just unmask, we don't apologize, we are just showing up as a truth that we are, unfiltered and unafraid. And I know that sounds like, okay, everybody else too, no, like for real. And I am so excited because I am going to have a girlfriend sesh with my girl Jackie over here. And we met, I'd say like 3 years ago?
Yeah. Whenever Karen started this whole thing
Yeah.
called Fave. And yeah, ever since then, we've known each other.
Yeah, and it was during COVID. And I know everybody can relate to this. You meet some of the closest people you know, not in person during that time, right? And
Absolutely.
You are a nomad RV traveler that has an incredible story of how she got there, but we're going to get to that maybe. Maybe. See where this goes.
You want to know that? Just come to my Facebook page. Otherwise, we're going to get to the good stuff.
And what really prompted this, like me reaching out to you, is because you just had a situation in your life that has kind of shook the ground that you walk on. Right. So you have a father who is struggling with aging and dementia. And then your mom, who, when we were talking, I didn't even realize that she was at that place in her life of where you just celebrated her life not too long ago in her death. So, but what was really interesting is we're all facing different sort of climactic, spaces in our lives, but we're experiencing the same emotions, the same heartbreak, the same confusion, the same what the fuck, the same all the things, right? So tell us a little bit about so you started off as a coach, a life coach, and then you're helping women through, and you are like the visionary. Like, listen, ladies, you need a cheerleader in your life. Jackie is it. And then what happened when you needed...
Did our internet pause? Hold that thought. Hold that. Okay, I'm here. What is going on?
Again.
I'm back. Am I back? Am I here?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
So that's okay. We'll edit that part. Just walk us through what it felt like for you when here you are, life coaching, cheerleading other people, and then the tables turned. What was that?
Ooh.
Tell me about it.
How much time do we have? No. Yeah. Okay. So it was a year ago, and I've been getting all the Facebook memories because I live out loud on my digital diary on Facebook, like literally everything. And it was a year ago, the memories started popping up recently where I got home from a retreat that I had just served a group of women in Tennessee, and in this beautiful cabin. And like literally a week later, I get this weird call from my brother that like they're taking care of my dad now. And I'm like, what? And the conversation was, my stepmom's in the hospital, and my stepmom's been in my life since I was like 8 years old. So she's my mom. So you'll hear me say, you'll come and toss between stepmom and mom, because my mom passed when I was 5. And so she's in the hospital for some reason, and now my brothers are trying to take care of my dad. And it was like this, like, what like was going on? Like, it was like from like 0 to 60 kind of conversation. And I remember taking my dogs for a walk, and I remember going, wait a second, I need to be there. And it was like instantaneous decision, intuitive decision to say, so I called my brother back and I was like, I'll come out for as long as you need. Let's plan 2 months and I'll take care of dad. Now, let me tell you, girl, I did not understand what that meant at the moment, but what I had.
Ask you, right? And they didn't ask you to come. Okay.
No, they didn't ask me to come, but I knew I could because I built this business that was, already established. I knew we actually, and there's no coincidences, because Universe God has our back. 2 months earlier, Mike and I committed to staying stationary to where we are now in Gypsum, Colorado, and so he could take a job. So now I've got a stable income with my husband, which I hadn't had in the 2.5 years of being a nomad. He randomly would do Uber, Lyft, but I was the main provider, and I got it. I took care of everything. I was the I got it girl I always talk about, right? And in this moment, I was like, okay, I need to go do this. I desire to go do this, not need. Like, it wasn't like you must do this. They didn't ask me. I chose to do it, went across the country, back from Colorado, back to Jersey, and decided I was going to stay 2 months with my dad. And my husband was going to take care of all the home front and like took over a little more of the financial responsibility so that I could pull back and not have to worry about marketing and pushing the business out to make money, right? And so little did I know the situation when I walked in. I had no idea that my dad has had dementia, signs of dementia and dementia for over 2 years. My mom kept it a secret. She kept it something that like she took care of herself. And so, because they had a routine, like they knew each other, like they provided, but she's also a very, and this is where I get it from, in control woman. Okay. And this is key to the story because she was very, very in control of this life, of situation. And if she could keep it in control, then she felt like she was safe, and stuff like that. And that's how she lived her whole life. And I learned a lot of great qualities because of that. But when she got sick, went into the hospital, and that's a year-long story, my dad needed someone to care for him. And we didn't realize it until she left the situation. So we were all kind of thrown into it. And that first night, my brother gives me a piece of paper and says, here's what he eats. Here's the CTV stations he watches. That's all they gave me. And then that night kicked in, night sundowning. If anyone's familiar with dementia, sundowning kicks in after the sun goes down and they become a completely different person. And so I'm sitting there living with, in this, like in the house, living on his couch going, okay, we got this. I got this. I can fix this. I can control this. I can do this alone. Those are my thought patterns, right? Because that's natural for me.
That's been your survival mechanism up to now.
Absolutely. And it totally served me until it didn't. And so and my dad starts screaming and he becomes this angry individual. Like my dad's like this kind, sweet, loving, he's like me, but bald. Okay. And literally like people will recognize me across the state of New Jersey and be like, are you Jean Cote's daughter? And I'm like, who are you? Why are you saying this? But like, you look just like him. And so, but he's screaming and he's like in this like state of like anger and altered dementia and like basically telling me he's going to die that night. And he's like, I was like, what the heck is going on right now? To the point where I had to end up calling one of my brothers and I'm like, have you experienced this?
Wait,
because I can't
prep you for that. They didn't tell you.
Because you know what? It didn't happen to anyone else but me. What did I trigger? But this was happening, but it was happening with my stepmom and she never told us. But it didn't happen with my brothers. It happened with me and he was up 24/7. Like for those 2 months, I didn't sleep. But that one night, I like sat and like I finally got my brother and I got him to calm down. And the point of this story is that I realized in that moment, like, I can't do this alone. I can't fix this. Can't make this okay. I'm like, and I just was bawling. Like he finally like fell asleep for like maybe 30 minutes at one point when we got him talked down and back to like a state. And I slipped, by the way, magnesium and vitamin D is what helped his sundowning. Future note for anybody who deals with this. But that got better over the next week. But I sat there and I was crying on the couch behind him while he's sleeping. And I'm like, I thought I was going to be able to run my business while I was taking care of him. I was going to be able to just do all the things. And I was bawling. And then I called a friend, late night friend, and I said, hey, I just was crying. And he said, listen, he goes, I know you. He goes, here's the things that you're thinking, and this is, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to call you out. You can't do this alone. You can't fix it. You can't be his caretaker, and like all these things. And he was just like, and I was like, he's right. And so that was the official start to my year of surrender. Like I had to surrender so much.
So, when he said you can't be his caretaker, now we come from a generation. You and I and 86 bajillion other people out there come from are in this generation space where we are caring for our elderly parents. And dementia is a common language now. Girl, when I was growing up, I never even heard of the word. I didn't know what dementia was, but now it's like almost like the word cancer. You hear it so often. But walk us through that. So now here you have figured out your life. Like a little bit of her backstory. She gets fired few years ago from this job that she's been at forever, expert in it, and decides, forget about it. I'm going to sell all my stuff and be a nomad and start a business. Okay. So you figured that out. Like, look at all these things. Like, this is what women are facing. We've done it. We lost something. We rebuilt it. But, things are getting stripped from us. We're going through, we got a divorce, our kids, blah, blah, blah. And then we get here where we're in this midlife madness where hormones could be playing a part, right? A new version of you has not yet unearthed. So here's something really personal. He's your father. And you've never seen this version of him in your life. And he starts losing it in front of you. What is going on in you? Like, what are you thinking that made that friend, when you go, shit, maybe he's right. Maybe I can't be like, what? Because you've been this tough cookie, doing it all, the whole thing. Like that was not even a whole 24-hour period. What was it?
Well, like I was coming to save the day. Let's just say that, right? When I was coming across the country to save the day and be there for my family, because I've done that. I'm always the long distance kid. Like I was always the one who was somewhere else. Everyone else stayed in Jersey, but I always made sure that I showed up, and showed up a lot. And I sat there, and there are things that like I did, quote unquote, save the day on and didn't realize I would be doing over the 2 months. And so I got that fix that we like to have as women, that we can fix it all. But what I realized in that scenario was when he said that to me, I was like trying to be my daughter, like the daughter's like helping my father. And when he said you can't be the caretaker, I was like, oh, so you mean I can't be the one like to just make it all better? Because like when I showed up, my dad would just like everything would feel good and everything smiled and happy and this and that. And I just can't fix it. And I can't do it all like that. And so for me, it was taking that step back and surrendering to the fact that like, okay, we have to find a place for him and we have to put him somewhere. And I'm the only one who can convince this man of that. So that's where my role was played. Like he didn't, I got out of that 2 months with him wonderful, like things like I love you, I'm proud of you. And those weren't words that were thrown around in our house. Like I knew that my parents were, and I got the same thing from my mom. Like, so God gave me everything I needed this year from the two of them before as this was going down. I never was alone with my dad my entire life. And then the day I placed him, after like 2 months of figuring this stuff out and like releasing and letting go, and there's also other dynamics within the 2 months that I could go on forever on this podcast with it. But the moment I placed him, I went back to the house and I was going to be sleeping alone in their house. Mom's still in the hospital and he's over there. And I realized at 52, I never had alone time with my dad. I'm the baby of 6 and then 2 stepkids. And there was always people around. There was always my stepmom around. There was always something else around. It was never just me and my dad. And I burst into tears because I was like, oh my gosh, I finally got solo time with my father. I'm about to cry over it because I realized I never got that. And I always wanted that. And he was my hero. But yet I was never, ever important enough to just spend time with me. There wasn't daddy-daughter dances. There wasn't let's take kids. No, I was alone, raising myself until I got under the roof with my stepmom. And then I had 3 years of parental guidance. And so, and throughout all the years, there was always family and I was just writing a chapter in my book about this. And I'm like, there was always something else that needed to be taken care of. So I wasn't important enough in my eyes, the story I created,
Right.
or worthy of being a burden on my family. So I couldn't share any of this deep stuff because I would be a burden. And my dad, and don't get me wrong, he never said that. They never said that, I don't have time for you. No, I just assumed it. And I just took on that story, on that responsibility from age 7. And so having that 2 months, who knew in the container of dementia that I would get everything I needed emotionally from my dad. We'd sit at the park and watch the ducks. The daytime was amazing with him. We had so much fun. We laughed. He told me how much he loved me, proud of me, how beautiful I was, all these things I never got. And of course, from the 4 o'clock on, I had to manage a little differently.
Right.
But that daytime was what I always desired. Just me and him. Just me and him. And I never got it. And so that time frame with my dad, and that's one of the 3 things that was really big this year for me. My mom was the other one, and then my stepdaughter. So the time with him helped open up, heal the childhood wounds that I didn't realize I even had. So I adversity is the biggest growth plan. Let me just say that.
Well, I love how you say that you didn't even know you had. I think, when you said these moments with your dad by yourself, it's not like anybody was depriving you of it or saying it to you or making you. But I think as children, that's just our interpretation, right? It's our interpretation of what's happening around us. And then we make it our thing. We make it part of who we are and how we exist in the world. And then you get all this time. And what a unique experience, like you said, under the container of dementia.
Right?
Right?
It was a blessing. It's one of the hardest things and a blessing. And I was just sharing this on the meeting this morning with the faith group that I now in the moment, within moments, can see the lesson because of the work I've done on myself. And it used to take years, months, whatever, to see the retrospect, But now it's in the moment, I give myself the time to go, okay, what is this telling me? What is this teaching me? How am I, this is some hard shit. What is it, But I'm so grateful for the previous 5 years, because if this happened, and I know you've experienced it, if this happened 5-6 years ago before I started this journey with mentors, with coaching, with inner development, all that stuff, oh God, it would have been a totally different scenario. Totally different scenario.
Right? It'd be like a legit hot mess. Yeah, I 100% hear you. And then, so here you are, you spend 2 months and you actually, what's fascinating is in the 2 months, you believe, whoever is listening, we're thinking yeah, Jackie came in, she did her thing. She did, so to speak, save the day, right? Because you got to split up that time with your siblings and stuff. But okay, I would just want y'all to hear this. But what if it was your dad saving you, right? Those 2 months wasn't really about you. It was more about him making his last stance of the daughter. He was always, that you were always to him, but couldn't express it. And then he did, right?
You're spot on.
So then let's talk about your mom, because that's the most recent experience. We are internet best friends. Hello. That's a thing. And I've been over here taking care of my grandbaby, so I haven't been on there quite a bit, but I noticed that something happened where your mom passed away.
Yeah.
Okay. So it didn't sound like it was something that people were prepared for or anybody was prepared. How did that come to? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So here, I just shared this with a friend yesterday. I said, here's an interesting dynamic when people pass. One, because I've had people passing in my life since I was 5. And so for me, there's not as much emotional charge to it, but especially with this one, and there's a little guilt to that. I should be more sad and crying. But the journey with my stepmom this past year has been watching her lose complete control of her life because she was sick in the hospital that went to. I witnessed what I'm desire to help other women shift. Like I've shifted from that place of control, fear. We live this survival game from control and fear, right? For most of our life. And me and you totally are eye to eye on that one. And then we shift into this place of thriving from love, and trust and surrender. And when we get to that place, we no longer have to have this tight white knuckle grip on everything. And my stepmom lived her whole life like that. And I didn't realize it until I watched this last journey of her past year. She was very much if it wasn't in control, it was it was chaos. And she had a husband pass away with 2 young kids. She went into single mom mode. She had to take care of everything. She had a sick child. She had my stepbrother was very sick at the younger years. So there was so much that she had to be in control and survival, right? Survive and control and fear. And she maintained that through the whole relationship and very controlled relationship with my father and with everything that happened throughout the dynamic, which was great. And what I watched her do is she started to lose control of her mind was always good. My dad's mind was not. My dad's body was good. She started to lose her body, her functionality from legs up. And so she was wheelchair bound. She could use her arms. Now imagine a woman who planned every event, controlled everything, losing piece by piece. Her bowel movements have to be hoisted to be taken care of. So I had a year journey of her going hospital, a nursing home, hospital. I watched her drop, thinking she was dying in front of me because of blood pressure dropping, being rushed to the hospital, meeting her over at the hospital. Being an advocate, I went home for 2 months to care for her, to be the advocate in between the 2 facilities. Because I was this is wrong. Something's not right. She's not getting better. And I need to find out why. And I'm long distance and I can't talk to her now. And then there's a whole bunch of stories of dynamics throughout the year too. Family dynamics that are on top of it.
There's a side thing of healthcare that we're not even going to get into.
Yeah. God. Oh my God. Can't you translate that vitamin D is needed in this woman when you go from one place to the next? They can't even transfer charts from one to the next. And then they bring her back. She went in and out of the hospital 10 times. And I'm okay. When I finally got out there, I was yeah, I'm sorry, we won't go too deep into it, but a quick nutshell is when I got out there, I was okay, if the same thing's happening, this is a blood pressure issue. She's dropping to the ground. She's dropping so low. And I'm and then what they did to fix, finally, I got one angel. God put an angel in front of me because I was there. And this nurse came in and she's she needs a belt to regulate her blood pressure, blah, 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 stockings. No issues after that. And I'm how did it take 6 visits and me to finally come in here to stop somebody to advocate? So that's a whole nother.
Yeah.
But anyway, I watched her just slowly disintegrate her her sense of control and get very have breakdowns of anger because and I would be too. I would not want to live that way. And it was going on for a year. And then there was a dynamic that I lost all contact with her because so I didn't know. Every day I was living in this, is she dying today? Is she living? I worked with an energy worker to just kind of what do you feel? What's going on? She's okay, she's deciding, is she staying or going? And if you believe in that or not, it was really helpful, along the journey. So towards the end, after my 2-month stay with her, the very last day was in April. She just passed in November, but it was in April that she had this total breakdown, total mad at the world, yelling at me, yelling at everybody. And then at the same time, my dad fell, hit his head. So I'm running from one hospital to take care of him, coming back to her. And then she's not in her room anymore. I'm what happened? Did she die? And so I'm in this, my emotional regulation was
yeah, your nervous system was whack as a doodle.
And so I get to the room that they placed her in and she's okay, I had my breakdown and now I'm ready to stay. So she finally released the control and said, I need support. I need to, because her whole game plan was to go back home. I'm going to go back home. I'm going to live in my house. I'm you can't walk. You can't take care of yourself. There's nobody there to care for you. And as much as I was I'm the reality check person, my stepbrother is I got to do whatever my mom says. And I'm no, you don't. You've got to help her see what she can't see right now. And so from that 2 months, I was able to help her see that it's time. It's time to let go of control and let other sources help. And she was 87 years old and finally came to terms with the fact that she's to let go of control and embrace like what's going on. 87, please discover it before that.
Can we just take a moment to hear that? Because I think that is such a huge piece of what we women in midlife are not looking at. We're looking to heal, but not let go of control. What is that? What is it? What are you doing when you're healing, but you're not letting go of control? I don't think it's nothing is happening, right? And I'm not saying that as judgment. I'm saying it as like, me too. Like, yeah, I'm signing up for this, I'm doing that. To go spiritual walk in silence in the woods, but I got to have control over my life. Like it wasn't working at all. So this is happening and your business is still running at the same time, right? Your business is still going the best it could. What are you seeing? Or maybe a better question is, when did you see that this experience is a shift in your business as well? Because here you are, you're a cheerleader for women. Like you're a visionary caster for women.
Mm-hmm.
You had just finished this amazing retreat, right? In this amazing experience. And then boom, life happens. When did it dawn on you of like, oh my gosh, am I my mom and dad in the world that I'm trying to create? Like, when did that like open you up?
I had a membership at the time when this all went down, and I cried over this decision to close it. And I like cried, and I talked to the ladies in the membership and was like, this is bigger than what I think. This is bigger than what I know right now. And I had to trust my intuition. My intuition was like, step back, step back, step back. And they were like amazing. And so I stopped the program and I pretty much pulled away. I look back now and I'm like, I worked 25% of the year and made about 50% what I made the previous year. And there's points in my year that I was mentally beating myself up for not making as much money or yada yada. And then I had this conversation with my financial person, and she goes, interesting. She goes, how much did your husband make? And I told her. She goes, and how much? And she's my bookkeeper, so she could see what I make. She goes, do you know combined that's what you made last year? And I said,
in your face.
Yeah, I was like, oh shit. I surrendered and gave and surrendered and let someone else care for me for the first time in 52 years. Like first time.
Oh my God, that makes
I've been with this man for 9 years, and I finally let him be the man. Like, you know what I mean? And I don't like making more money or making money doesn't make a man, but it gave him the opportunity to truly love me and support me in every capacity. And I wasn't letting him do that because I had to be in control. So look at my mom, who held my dad with dementia in that household for 2 years. He would be like hold her arms abusively at night, but she was like, no one can know this. I got this. I'm in control. And I was like, all I see is like a mirror of what I've been doing my entire life through my mom's journey. And all of it, like, so when you said, what did it with the business? I was like, I had to like, not let it go. It's still in existence, but I had to just trust it was going to be whatever it's meant to be. And then when I'm ready, I'll step back in, which is now. Like, I'm fully back in and engaged in a different way. In a totally different way.
Yeah. So before we get into that, so when your mother passes, your father's still alive and he's progressing in his dementia as that disease does. Your mother passes. What is sort of like you believe? You know, you've told us a little bit about how this woman has been powerfully in control by circumstance. 90% of it is circumstantial, right? And then she's walked into that. What do you think was her greatest lesson to you? Like, what would she sit down, look you in the eyes and say, Jackie, this is what I have been wanting you to know about being a woman because of me?
She told me in a weird way before she passed. And so the last couple weeks of her life, I was taking care of my stepdaughter for 2 months during September and October. And then I always drive up to New Jersey from Virginia up to New Jersey. And then I see my parents. So like I fit in, I'm a really good planner of fitting in like how to like maximize my time places to see people and live my life. And so on the way up, I saw her, and it was the first time we were in like this room where they have lunch, and she pulls me over. She's like, guys, meet my stepdaughter. Now I've been there literally like 50 times, right? In the different centers and the different places with her by her side. And it's like, there's no coincidences. She goes, this is my stepdaughter. She has her own business. She makes good money. Tell her what you do. Tell him what you do. And I was like, never in my life, girl. I was a restaurant person, leadership management for 30 years. Never did she introduce me to people in that way. Been in business for 6. Never. It was always my brother, my stepbrother. They're so proud of them, what they've built, the good careers, the good incomes, have good money, savings, raise their, like they were so verbally proud of them. And but I knew they loved me. I knew they were proud of me. Like you said, like it's all under like the surface, but it was 2 weeks before she passed when she does this to me. And my face was like, who, me? Wait, you want me to? Yeah. I started a business and I told them what I did. And she was just like prouder than a pig in shit. Excuse my language, but she's like, that's right. Listen to her. She's got it. And I was like, holy crap. Like and I was like, thank you for like sending it to me. And so what that told me was like she was finally like letting herself feel, share. Like she cried with me so many times the last couple weeks. Like when we were alone, she's like, I missed the life that I had. Like my parents hadn't seen each other. My dad and my stepmom hadn't seen each other since I left in January. They never physically saw each other again from January till the end. So when people ask me like about like everybody wanted to cancel like my sessions with them and stuff after my mom passed, and I said no, like I want you guys like with me. And the reason why it wasn't so quote unquote hard, and when someone dies, it's a lifelong thing, you like have pop-up memories and stuff. But because I've been mourning her and my dad for a whole year, since the day like they were not the people. There was a point I told my stepmom in one of the like moments where she got really connected and emotional with me and showed her feelings. She was very no feelings.
Yeah, well, that comes with control, right?
Yeah, right. And so I said to her, if you don't want to wake up tomorrow, it's okay. And she just bawled and she's like, thank you. And I was like, because this is not the way you want to live. And this is not the way you want to be. And this is not who you are. I'm like, but I'm really glad that you're sharing this with me. And I want to share with you that I support you in whatever decision you make. If you decide one day you don't want to keep going, it's okay. And of course, I was crying and she's crying. And a week later, she decided to go on hospice. And hospice is the end of your journey, and then 9 days later, she passed. We saw her the last picture I have of her, she's like smiling and waving at me and with me in a picture and Mike in a picture. And then 9 days later, I got to see her the day before she passed and say goodbye to her and stuff. Well, she couldn't talk. She was laid up and she had lost all capacity of everything.
When I started a very similar journey to you, not with my parents, though, with a forgiveness coach about my parents, which honestly, I didn't go into it thinking, oh, we're going to talk 80,000 more hours about my parents. I've already done all the parent talk I could do. I'm 50. Like, let's be done with this. But no, of course, that's not the case. And what's interesting is every time I had a situation, like an emotional turmoil of something, she would calmly say, so how is this mirroring you? And I'd be like, you know what? I don't want to hear your voice right now. And
so true.
But when I'm listening to you, I feel like everything you're sharing is, they always say that awareness is the biggest part of our healing journey. Like, be aware. But I don't think it means just be aware that the sky is blue or that, I had trauma as a child. I think it's also being aware of the life that is being presented in front of us is a reflection of something. Right? Your mom and your dad, in the experience of that last moments of her pride, so big and bold at that hospital, just to remind you that it's a mirror effect because that's the reflection that you're becoming for the millions of people you're about to reshape their lives. Right? Like, let's be honest. In the beginning, when I met you, I was like, Jackie, we are like the same people. We think the same. We see the world the same, right? The whole thing. but I get it now. I get a deeper that we can't explain. And I always knew you were meant to change people's lives in the way that you do it because of your personality. But now it's not even I know or I think, it's just who you are. And I think that who you are in this, you had to experience that mom and dad experience. So now that we're leading up to that, what does your business look like now? So you're done with the membership. You are in the throes of life. Your husband's still mainstaying in Colorado. You're going back and forth. You're doing all this. What are you thinking? I mean, were you just sitting there one day going, you know what? I don't know. I think I'm just going to burn it all down and walk away, or like,
You don't know me.
me too.
Oh god. It's funny, like the one thing that real quick that popped up as you were talking, like when you said what the lesson from my mom is, one of the biggest things, like, and when I talk about the control and survival and all that stuff that I learned from her observing in like my own personal way, like it totally served me, like you said. But one of the biggest things, she was determined to live life. They like traveled the world. Like my dad's a third grade education farm boy, like from Canada, who like has been to Singapore and been to like African safaris, and like she like lived life. And it's funny because I felt this relief when she passed, like this relief washed over my body in the middle of the airport. Of course I cried, but it was a massive like relief in my body because every day I was on that, like, right, my nervous system was on like alert.
Yeah.
Between my dad and her every day. I never know, right? And so, but when she passed, I was like, she's not suffering anymore. I don't have to worry anymore. So that's the two things. And immediately, I heard her say to me, "You don't need to fly back for the funeral. Don't worry about it. Live your life." Like that's what she's. And of course, I did fly back for her funeral, like a week later. But I heard her say that to me, like she's constantly on my like shoulder, going like, "Okay, you doing your thing. Like you better keep showing up." Like that's who she was. Like she was very like. She was very like, you better live your life. Like when I said I was moving to Arizona after college randomly with two people that I just met at work, she was like, go for it, have fun, you know? And when I was like, okay, now I'm moving to California, and she's like, oh, cool, tell me all about it. You know what I mean? She was that like, so I get a lot of that from her. And so I lived my life for others last year by choice. And I needed everything, like you said, everything that happened for me. Like even my experience with taking care of my stepdaughter, living on her couch for 2 months, and my grandson, like I needed that experience. I never had like raising kids. Like I never had, that was like a whole nother experience this year. And so everything that I got, like, there was moments when you pull away from something that you do so often and that you're so good at naturally, you start to doubt yourself because you're not doing the thing. You're not in the thing. And I started to have
comfort zone system, right?
yeah. Like I was like, I don't know. There was many months where I was like, I don't know what at. And I know now, like in the moment, I was like, okay, there's something you're resisting because you're not ready. Like there's more for you to process, right? So I had to honor that. Like I had to honor that. Like it's not time, and you're not ready. Like it's not that you suck at what you do now suddenly. Like it's you're layering more stuff in. And so I had to sit and really trust in that because I wasn't putting programs out and I wasn't making more money and I wasn't like getting more clients. I have a membership that I did reopen, which fed my soul every Tuesday night. And that's all I had. Like I had that and I had a couple one-on-one clients. And I have my retreats next year. So like that's where the money flow came from this year, those items. And I kept saying, it kept coming up for me, like, trust, like when the time's right, like it's going to be all of this it's all going to make sense, you know? And I just had to keep trusting and embracing the moments that I was getting and the lessons and all the, like the experiences, and like kept layering it in and layering it in. And my health, I had like a health situation that happened that like, I was like, okay, you know, it's your time, it's you time. So like it kept, and so now, now I'm like, oh, and it's like popcorn. All these things are coming up of like what I want to do and everything. And it all makes sense to how it's going to come out for women's and all of the lessons. Like, I'm like, this program, okay, we're going to do this. Like things are reflecting back to me, like a relationship. Who said I was ever going to do a relationship program? But like the relationship journey that I went on this past year is creating this beautiful container for next year that I'm going to put out in February. That is like, and it's funny because my membership women reflect back what's coming out of me. Like all of a sudden, the entire conversation the other night was about like wanting to get in the 50s, getting back into the dating world, 50s and 60s. Like, how do you do that? And like, how do you let go of the control? They even said the words came out of their mouth. And like, how do you let go of the control of being in charge of your life and let somebody into that? Like, I'm not gonna lose that independence. And I'm like, this is a program. Like, this is like the February pop-up group, because I used to run those. But like, and everything happened exactly the way it was supposed to. And I know that's so frustrating to hear if you're listening to this. When people tell you it's happening for a reason, it's all happening for a reason, because I preach that stuff. But it's so true. It's so true.
So walk us through this other piece that people, okay, so right now there's a very global energy of uncertainty, confusion. But right prior to that, the language that was being used, like right during COVID, was like alignment. We need to be aligned with. Now, I know that the end result that we all want is alignment, but no one talks about the messy shit before the alignment, right? So I really want to kind of, because really that's where you have been showing up in terms of helping women with their vision casting, right? Is we can vision all day long. And we want the end result to be an aligned version of us. But what's this messy middle that you believe we're not confronting? Like you said the magic word, you were in resistance to something. How do we even recognize what this is? What is resistance? Like what is that piece that's like, so for me, I'll just give an example. For me, again, I have two incredible mentors that have been leading me through this process. And I finally got to the point where I can't really be doing the things that they do because we're not the same people. We don't have the same experiences, but they keep encouraging me to like, hey, find that space, find that space. So I call it my shut the fuck up mornings where, because I'm a planner, I am that person that plans the night before of what I'm going to do. Again, here we are, kismet in this control situation. So I've been practicing for the past 4 or 5 months where I don't plan nothing for at least the first 30 minutes of my day. I don't plan. I don't think. I just shut the fuck up. And
I'm like so giddy hearing this.
so I just process emotion, and it's not easy. This is not easy because I'm much more logical. If you said, okay, to get to this point, you got to do this, this, and this, and that, done. Can do it. But if you say, let's wait and see, I'm like, I don't even know what that's like. But so anyways, this has been I'm asking you sort of as a blanket advice, but I think we have to be aware of something. I think there's something we're in resistance of. And for me, I noticed what I was in resistance of is being with myself. So
I hated being with myself.
Messy space before we get into alignment that we really need to check on ourselves.
This is a whole nother podcast. A couple things came up as you were talking. One, until I was 47 and started this journey, 47, 48, I hated being with myself, but didn't realize it. Like I didn't understand what that meant. And so I did everything possible to avoid personal time with self. So I totally understand what you're talking about because I would plan events and I would do this and I would do that and I'd work a million hours and this and that because like if I was with me, like I can help you, but these 3 fingers I ignored. Like this finger was very much out. Like, let me help you, let me help you, let me help you, let me set this up for you, let me fix this, let me, and these 3 fingers, I was like, oh God. So that started the journey of discovering that if I don't look within at me, then and start to decipher, like I know it's thrown around, self-love is thrown around a lot, but it is legit. Like it is like how can you, and I had someone argue with me saying, well, there's nearly no like full self-love, true self-love. And I was like, okay, so I get that like people aren't going to love every part of their body. They're not going to love it. I was like, but what if they did? Like, what if we let go of the control of trying to figure out how we can make ourselves better and release to the fact that we're perfect the way we are?
Yeah.
And like love, and I know that's a lot of work and that's a lifetime journey, and I get that, but why not start it? And why not like,
right.
And like, so that was the start of like the really no judgment, just curiosity is a statement that I live by. That whenever something resistance, maybe it's like a a jealousy of seeing something that someone else is doing. Maybe it's like whatever it is, like, what inside of me is going on right now? Not like, what is it about them that I don't like, or what is it about that situation that I'm like, what is like just really helping and the first thing I overcame was bulimia because of that. You've heard that story. So through the process, like through the years, I've developed this new survival mechanism, let's call it thriving mechanism, no longer survival, that pauses and gives myself the opportunity to go, I'm curious. I'm curious about this thing that I'm feeling, this thing. And when it comes to resistance, like people are like, oh, you're just afraid to go. No, there's one of two things. Maybe it's more than two things, but I look at it as, is it resistance because I'm scared? I fear it. It's something that's unknown, or is it just because it doesn't freaking align with me? And that's what helps me discover the alignment thing. Like if it's not, I just had this coach try to convince me to like come on board in their program. And I was like, it's not a hell yes. And he was like, what? And I'm like, no, like it's not a full body yes. And I trust that. I trust that now more than I trust that. I trust inside more than I trust outside. And so it takes time to get there. Am I perfect at it? No, like I'm still like, but I pause and I stop. There's an uncomfortable pause that we have to let ourselves sit in. We have to let ourselves sit in it like your mornings. That's the uncomfortable pause. The shut whatever it is that you said.
People are going to censor it, but they're going to censor it. I call it my shut the fuck up mornings.
Good. I would call it that too. And those are the uncomfortable things that we have to let ourselves feel. Because if we don't feel, and I didn't never let myself feel, bulimia was my way of my door out of feeling. And so if I let myself feel, that's scary. Like, what if I don't survive it? Like, what if on the other side, like there's no returning, no coming back from that feeling? Well, guess what? The more you try it, the more you realize you didn't die. You survived. Next feeling, like next processing, next pausing. And when you do that over and over and over, it becomes this place that like you get to have peace amongst the chaos. And that is, so when you talk about me being a visionary, here's what shifted a bit in my focus in helping women. Like, yes, I'm a visionary, but what's more important to me now is helping you see what you can't see of who you are so that you can trust you, like, and own who you are. And like, really, so I'm a mirror that goes, see in the mirror, this is you. Do you see that part? Do you see that part? Do you see, oh no, because I didn't. And so now I want people to reflect back on their own. Like, it's not the Jackie show. I don't teach you what to do. I don't teach you. It's like, you have it all inside. So I'm just here to kind of bring it out and put it. And so that was a lot. But what was the question?
No, but that was good, because that's really, that you really brought the unworn path to alignment. You know, there's that famous poem of which road do you take when you're at the crossroads, the one that is less traveled or the one that's over traveled. And I think everybody wants to choose the untraveled road. But because you can't see it, it's just harder to know that alignment can be there. Whereas a traveled road, you can control every step because you can see it.
Familiar. Right? Yep. You can see it. It's known.
Yeah. So, okay, now we're going to get into like kind of the fun last couple of questions here. Lighten up a little bit. So if you could describe this midlife messy middle in 3 badass words, what would they be?
Man, midlife. I feel like messy is still like a large part of it. It's messy. It's beautiful. And I know that like people are like, it's not fucking beautiful. It's like, I have menopause. I'm feeling this. I'm feeling this. And vulnerable is a beautiful word for me now. Like it's vulnerable because you let people, if you choose to allow others to see you, it's a magical thing. And
you know, I am a 2nd degree black belt, and I don't throw that around to be like, I am so awesome. The only way I got there is because I had to be vulnerable with myself. It wasn't because I could kick any more or any higher. It was because I had to admit all of the things to get there. And that makes it so like proud to carry it, is because like it's very confronting, right? And I think your words are extremely badass. Vulnerability, that is, people throw that around like it's a leaf, but it's a freaking boulder. Okay, now Here's a fun one. If your life right now was a theme song, what would it be?
Gosh, which day? Like, cause there's days where I'm like, Sia, like, I'm unstoppable.
Yeah, right?
Right? Then there's Brave, you know, because we just went this whole Brave book, right? And but the Courageous, and then it's like when you just break it down, I don't know. Like, I will say one of my challenges is like thinking of songs like in the moment.
Yeah. Yeah, me
But
too.
Broken Road by Rascal Flatts. When he sings it, he talks about how everything's led me to where we are today. It's actually my wedding song. My husband hates country, but I'm like, this is our wedding song. Sorry, honey. And I was like, and he got me a little like vinyl like thing to like put on the wall with all the lyrics because it's true. Like I feel like everything is totally leading to where we are today and to the me that I am today. Now the song for my wedding was like it led me to him. Like all the relationships and all the things led me to him. Even though within our relationship, I could tell you the entire, like all relationships, there's an entire journey within the relationship that leads back to the next version of him, the next version of me, and the next version of him, and the next version of me. And if we're willing to accept each other as we shift in those versions, we have a great relationship. But yeah, like I would say that one because everything is led me closer to me, and I'm that like star that he talks about in the song.
And that's, they say that you remember when Mozart or Beethoven was a thing for babies? They were like all the tones in it, and it has a vibrational frequency. This is why music is actually such close proximity to our emotional journey, is because it is a vibrational tone. It's not just in the singing bowls, y'all. It is in music in general, is what it is. So, and my very last question is you're walking down the street, you walk into a cafe, and you see 25-year-old Jackie. And you're like, remembering who Jackie was at 25, what would you tell her that she would actually listen to prepare her for where you're at today?
You give good thinkers thinking questions. You know, it's really interesting about the 25-year-old version of me. She was a go-getter. She was going to make shit happen. She was going to, and she always did. And she like always figured it out. And she found a way to pay for college through working at college to get through college. And after post-college, she had no debt. Like she traveled the country, like all during those years between like 21 graduating and so I want to say, like, you know, you feel like you look back, I'm like, I had no fear. And then I realized today that she was moving her life through fear. And she was very in control of her life through that place of like fear. I got to get it done. I can make it. I can. And so I always talk about, yeah, I got it, girl. Like she got it and she always got it and she made it happen. But she did it alone. And what's interesting is that the 30 years of that career that I was in, that I was making stuff happen and doing all the things. And I don't have anybody from that time frame of my life that's still friends with me in my life today from that restaurant business because I kept everything surface level. It's very like, there's no deep, and so I probably would tell her now that I talk it out loud is that you're safe to let go, let God, and let others join you on this journey.
I mean, she'd probably think you were crazy, but
I'd be like, hell no, I would lose my fierce independence and I would,
But and honest to God, now, if you were like in this, if that had happened and then now we're having this conversation, you'd probably reflect back on that one experience of like, man, there was this crazy lady that came up to me and said, right?
Yeah. Like, well, another, okay, would she listen? Oh gosh.
I mean, and maybe not, but
I don't know. Like, I'm trying to think, I'm like, was she stubborn? No, I mean, I lived a really, like, we sit there and we go like, oh, but I lived a good life. Like I had fun and I always like the freedom theme has always been part of my life. She's always been this like get out of Dodge, let's go do stuff. Yeah, I was always the freedom seeker my entire life. And I look back and I'm like, yeah, like that's why like my theme of freedom makes sense in my business, right? But the one that I don't think she would grasp that I would love her to know, and I tell her when I do my go back to my younger self is like love yourself so much. Like love yourself like first and foremost over anybody else, because I just had a memory of a job where I was working at Fendi, which is like kind of like a Gucci, right? And the lady, three of us, I just did a post on this. The three of me and two friends started there at the same day. And she was like, the woman who was running it, she was all done up in her makeup and her fancy stuff. And she's like, okay, the two of you will be up front. You're going to be wrapping gifts in the back. I saw super cool. I love wrapping gifts. The next day she did it again. And I was like, I'd love to be up front. Can we switch? Because I'm really good with customers, because I've already been doing customer service. She's like, no, you don't have the look for up front. And my friends heard that, and I heard that. And 2 days late, like we finished out our schedule, we all quit. And I just would, like, it brings up emotion now, because I remember feeling like I'm not good enough to be seen.
Yeah.
So I hated malls and I hated high class stuff my entire life. So I reversed the judgment. I was like, oh, people are just assholes when they have money. Well, guess what? I didn't make big, large sums of money throughout my life because of that. I've made great money, because I don't want to be a jerk. I don't want to be snooty. I don't want to be right.
Yeah. It's crazy how jerk is so associated to money. And what's interesting is the people who shaped that weren't even the ones with money.
Yes.
Isn't that crazy? Because I actually have never met an extremely rude millionaire.
Me neither.
But the ones who were trying to be,
Yeah.
who were playing the role, they were all kind of judgy. But anyways, that's another podcast. And we can go on forever, but we are at the end of our shift.
That went by fast.
And I just want to take a moment and say thank you for sharing such depth, such a journey. Because I know that there's little bits and pieces out there in the internet world, but I think to hear it all in one place, to what you were experiencing, to know that there are people listening that are like, I am going through that. I'm experiencing taking care of my parents. I'm experiencing the death of my parent. And we're all too much alike to be different and divided. That is where Her Truth Revealed has really been birthed from. First of all, from my shut the fuck up moments, but also from we can't keep these things to ourselves, because we're all on the same journey. And I knew that when I met you in person. I was like, oh my gosh, we're on the same trajectory. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you. And all the information for Jackie to follow her, to share her journey with us. Will all be in our show notes. And until next time, everyone, live the messy life, the best that it is offered to you, and doing it together. Thank you so much for being with me on today's journey. If you felt something resonate, if you saw yourself in this conversation, please take a moment to subscribe. Share it with a friend who needs this space, and leave a review. It helps others find us, and it's a small way you can be a part of this powerful movement. Ladies, this isn't just a podcast. It's a community, a revolution, a place where midlife women come together to embrace our hard-earned wisdom and vibrant truth. So thank you for being part of this. Remember, it's time. It's time to step into our truth. No more holding back. Midlife is ours to own, and it's only getting started. So until next time, take a breath, honor your journey, and live with audacity, courage, and joy. This is our time, our truth, unraveled, revealed, and celebrated.